guys remember that song by the Wiggles called Crunchy Munchy Honey Flakes, where they tell you how to make crunchy munchy honey flakes within the song? There's something I've always wondered about that, is if you could actually follow the song just using the lyrics to actually make the dish, because it doesn't tell you like any measurements or time for stuff like that. I've always wondered how it would turn out. So I figured today would be the perfect day to test it. So the first thing that we're going to actually need to make these crunchy munchy honey flakes is of course the ingredients. So I went down to the store to get the stuff. There were two things that I needed specifically that we didn't already have here. I need the honey and of course the crunchy munchy flakes. And in the lyrics it says they're like mucil flakes or something. So I went to the store, walked around and found them, and it turns out that they have wheat in them. And since I'm not feeling like getting poisoned, I had to go with an alternative. Boom. So here we are. I got these almond honey granola or something. I think that should fit, and it's gluten-free, so I won't, die. And then I got honey here, and it's pretty smart because it's got an A+. So good to have smart honey in our food. I know the song also says that we need flour for it, and I've got some flour here, also gluten-free, again, for the same reason. So the first bit of the lyrics that the song has is crunchy munchy honey cakes. They're great to eat and they're fun to make. So we should be having a lot of fun while doing this. In your hand or on a plate, crunchy munchy honey cakes. So just kind of getting our expectations ready for how much fun we're gonna have and how we can serve them later on. The next part it says, apron on and wash your hands. So I guess that'll be my first step. I don't have an apron, but I do have this random hand towel I can use. So apron on. It doesn't say you have to keep the apron on, so get rid of that. And then I guess we have to wash our hands. All right, so that was a pretty good start. So for the next part, we actually get to start getting the prep ready. So it says we have to grab a bowl and a baking pan, rolling pin, and mixing spoons. We'll be mixing very soon. So that's exciting, something to look forward to. I guess I will go ahead and find those in here. I can't imagine I'll be making a lot of these, so this size bowl should suffice. So when I knocked the camera over just then, it completely broke the microphone. So the headphone jack is just here now. So I guess it was a good thing I got this new microphone just in time to try. So hopefully it works. I also don't know what we're going to use this rolling pin for, because I know we just make them into balls later on. So no idea what this is for, but we have it here just in case. We have the mixing spoons, which I just assume is just a spoon to mix up the stuff with. So got that here, and then also have the baking tray. Just put some parchment paper there on it, I guess, to keep it clean. So we're finally getting into like the cooking part of it here. We're gonna take the flour and honey too, put them together and make a goo. So very precise measurements there. Just go till it's goo consistency. Let's see how that goes, I guess. Okay, so we've got the honey and we've got the flour here. Let's go ahead and hope this works. So specifically it says to take the flour and honey too. So I assume we add the flour first to this for our recipe. Literally just gonna add like, I don't know, let's do like 2, maybe 3 spoons of this, I guess. Maybe get the clumps out of there. That's probably not a good thing to have. All right, there's our flour. I guess now time to add the honey towards where it looks like goo. That already looks like a pretty gooey consistency, but we'll probably need more to make all this flour good. I don't even know. Okay. Oh, okay, that is definitely looking gooey. That's looking nasty, actually. We're gonna need a lot more honey. So it seems to have just congealed all into one massive glob on the spoon. So I guess add more honey. You know those mobile game ads where it's like the good option and the bad option. This feels like a cooking version of that, where the guy has no idea how to cook and is pouring honey into straight flour. It is seeming to clump together more, so maybe that's what we want, but we're going to need a lot more honey to get it to a goo consistency, because this right now is more of like a paste. I think it needs a bit more honey to truly reach that goo consistency, but it is getting better than just the paste we had at the start. All right, so we've got the goo consistency. Let's see what the next step is here. Add some milk and mucil flakes. Now we're almost ready to bake. Again, very specific in the measurements, and I'm just realizing I think we ran out of milk today. So we'll have to find a substitute for that. And I just went to the grocery store earlier, so not making a second trip. So I guess for the milk, I'll just see if we have anything in the fridge that could be used as a substitute. And I did actually pick this up in the store earlier today, green tea. So maybe I'm not going to use that. I'm realizing just now we actually have a little bit of milk left. I didn't even know about this, but that works perfectly. So we have a little bit of milk, and then we have the flakes right here, so we'll go ahead and mix those together. Again, we're going to be adding the milk first to our consistency because that's what it says. I guess we'll add probably just enough to make it like an actual consistency to kind of loosen it up. And I'm already feeling like that was way too much milk. If you can hear the sound on this, that was definitely too much milk. And now it's swimming in it. And also bubbling. I don't think it should be bubbling. I think I'm gonna pour out the extra milk because that was definitely too much. So now we just got this like extra goop. We could add some more flour to it, but I'm hoping that the granola sort of mixture will absorb some of the milk that we have here. I'm gonna try and break it up a bit because it seems to be in pretty big clumps, and the flakes that they had, I think were a bit smaller than this. So you know what that means. Time to just like pound on this. Oh, this feels wrong. This feels very wrong. Seems like the milk settled down a bit, but let's go ahead and crunch it up here, you know? I'm starting to think we should have made a bigger batch with this. Okay, that's a bit goopier, I guess. So I guess that's like where we want it. Time to get the baking tray and get that ready. We've got our goop. We've got our baking tray. Let's go ahead and see what the next instructions are for this part before we put them on there. So it says roll some balls on the baking tray. Now that's interesting because we have the rolling pin out here that we haven't used. But when I think of rolling balls, I think of just like using my hands. So don't really want to wash this, but a thin consistency probably would be better. But then also again, I think it would just stick to this. It wouldn't really roll off it. But hey man, I'm not the Wiggles. I'm the student here. So I guess we'll go ahead and use it then. And specifically, and I want to point this out for the lyrics here, it says, roll some balls on the baking tray, put them in the oven right away. So right away, that means like instantly, right? But it also doesn't say what temperature, so I just guessed a temperature. I guess we're gonna go 400. Should be fine though. We don't really need direct parts for this anyway. Definitely thinking we might have made a bigger batch, especially for all of this, but I guess it'll be enough for like a small portion. I'm probably not gonna eat a bunch of this anyway, so gotta scoop it all out. And that looks it looks better in person than it does on camera now. So it's gone both ways. That's fun. Also gotta wash out the bowl because I'm not leaving this sticky mess in here. All right, so we have our pudding pile here and about to dirty up this whole rolling pin. See, I'd be less concerned about using this if I didn't know how much space it takes up in the dishwasher. And the tray is moving underneath it along with the paper, so all right. So it looks like we pretty much just made a vomit pile, and this was definitely, it went better than I thought it did, but my expectations were 0, so that's pretty easy to do. Okay, and then if you remember, the lyric said put them in the oven right away, so we have to do this right away. I'm gonna open this up and slide it right in there. Careful not to get burnt. We've already had one accident today. And then as for a timer, let's see what the lyrics say. Stand back and watch them bake. So instead of just watching it with the oven open, especially because our oven's dark, I think I'm just gonna like set a 5-minute timer or something, and then, you know, come back and check on it, because having the flour in there, it'll probably take a little bit of time to cook. Okay, so they've been in there for about 5 minutes, and I'm starting to smell something, so that's pretty exciting. We've got a couple seconds left on the timer, so in the meantime, let's just go ahead and read the next lyric just to make sure we know what to do when they're done in the oven. So it says, stand back and watch them bake. Now let's eat those yummy cakes. So if they're done, we'll be able to chow down into them. Okay, so this does actually look like food somehow, if you can see it there. I think it needs a little bit longer. I think I'm gonna do a little broil on it, because it looks like the inside is gooier than the top is. And when you're broiling, you do want to keep an eye on it. So this, we really will have to stand back and watch it bake. So I'll be honest, so far, I'm very surprised that it actually looks like food, not just an awful garbage mess. It does like smell decent. I don't know if that's just the honey or what, but. Okay, it looks like it's done. I mean, the edges are golden brown, and brown food tastes good, as we all know. There's probably only like 2 people who understood that reference, but if so, hey. So it didn't say anything about cutting them in the lyrics, as we saw, but we're going to anyway. Now, do we go for squares or triangles? I think we just go for blobs. And that, okay, that is still very sticky. Not much crunch or munch in these. So I will say the edges do look a lot better than the inside. This stuff is still a lot more sticky than it is crunchy. And I can't even like get it off the pizza cutter here. Just have to wipe it off. Can't even spray it off with water right now. So if you remember from the lyrics, we can choose in our hand or on a plate, but not both because it's either or. So I am gonna go plate though. I've been eyeing this edge piece right here. That doesn't actually look too bad. So let's go ahead. As the lyrics say, now let's eat that honey cake. So there it is. Let's see, there it is right there on like the good camera. I'm actually very scared to try this, but here we go. Cookie! Nom, 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 nom. Oh, nom, 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 nom. Way too much honey. Okay, I have some thoughts about that. First thought, way too sticky. Way too much honey in that. The granola texture is also kind of weird. It's contrasting with that of the flour and the milk. But even as I'm saying it and kind of have that taste in my mouth, it is kind of good and I do kind of want to go back for another bite. It's not bad, right? This is passable. This is food. Is it great to eat? I would say it's on the lower end, 4 or 5 out of 10, probably. But it was fun to make. I am disappointed. There is very little crunch or munch in this. It's mostly just stick and glop. That might have been from the milk or from the honey. I'm not sure, but it's like not terrible, but could have helped to have the actual, you know, measurements and stuff in there. So here we go, crunchy munchy honey flakes made exactly to the Wiggles standards. If you like these kind of videos where I talk about like old songs or whatever. You might find this VeggieTale video interesting, where I talk about the time they made a rock album. It was interesting for sure. Just as interesting as these Crunchy Munchy Honey Flakes.